to a $10 billion candy and costume party? It's a wild story. So let's dive in and uncover the surprising 3,000-year history of Halloween.
It really all starts with this one kind of weird question, right? Why do we as humans dedicate an entire day to fear? What's the deal with the spooky costumes, the ghost stories, and all the things that go bump in the night? Why do we love it so much? And we really love it. Every single year, nearly 1 billion people all around the globe get in on the Halloween festivities. But here's the crazy part. The version of Halloween that we all know today, it's actually brand new.
I mean, you know the drill. It's all about trick-or-treating, finding that perfect costume, whether it's scary or just hilarious, hitting up parties, and of course, carving up some pumpkins. But to figure out where all of this really came from, we've got to go back in time. And I mean way, way back.
Okay, our story starts about 3,000 years ago. We're in ancient Ireland with the Celtic people. This is where you find the real spiritual heart of the holiday, long before a single piece of candy corn was ever made.
So the original festival wasn't even called Halloween. It was an ancient Celtic festival called Samhain, and you pronounce that Samhain. It literally means summer's end, and it marked this incredibly important moment of the year, the end of the harvest and the beginning of the long, dark, and let's be honest, pretty dangerous winter.
At the core of Samhain was this really powerful belief. The Celts thought that on this one night, the veil between our world and the spirit world got super, super thin. It was the time you could actually connect with your ancestors. You could think of it as literally a party with the dead. And to make sure the spirits were happy, they'd light these massive bonfires and make sacrifices.
But as you can imagine, a powerful pagan tradition like this was on a collision course with some of the biggest empires and religions in history. And what followed was this centuries-long tug-of-war over what this day even meant.
This whole cycle played out in 3 big acts. First, in 43 AD, the Roman Empire shows up, calls these Celtic rituals satanic, and bans them. Then, a few centuries later, as Christianity is spreading, it does something even smarter. It doesn't just ban the festival, it absorbs it. It rebrands it as a Christian holiday. But the fight's not over. During the Protestant Reformation, this new Catholic version gets banned all over again in Britain. What a ride.
And this rebranding was seriously strategic. You see what they did? Honoring the spirits of your ancestors became honoring Christian saints. Those giant sacrificial bonfires, they were replaced with quiet prayers and church services. Christianity basically took the date and the general theme, but swapped out the mystical connection to the dead for a much more controlled religious observance.
So after getting pushed down for centuries in Europe, you might think the story's over. Nope. The festival found a second chance, a whole new life, across the Atlantic. As Irish immigrants fled persecution and famine, they packed the embers of this ancient tradition and brought them to America.
And their whole mindset was pretty much this. They were thinking, hey, we left to get away from the very English laws that banned our traditions in the first place. Why on earth would we follow those rules here? In America, they were determined to bring their culture back to life.
And the coolest part? It didn't just stay an Irish thing. In that classic American melting pot, immigrants from Germany, the Netherlands, and France all started to join in. It morphed into this shared, grassroots folk tradition, a new, unofficial American holiday. And that's when it finally got the name we know today, Halloween, which is just a shorter way of saying All Hallows Eve.
But then, the 20th century happened, and a new force, more powerful than any empire or religion before it, was about to reshape Halloween forever. That force? American capitalism. Just look at that number, $10 billion. That's what Americans spend on Halloween every single year. This was no accident. This was a very deliberate, very successful commercial reinvention of a holiday.
So how on earth did this happen? Well, American businesses saw a golden opportunity. Candy companies started pushing the idea of trick-or-treating because, well, it sells a lot of candy. Costume makers created a massive new industry. Even pumpkin farmers got in on it, promoting the tradition of carving jack-o'-lanterns. And then Hollywood put the final nail in the coffin, packaging this new commercial Halloween and exporting it to the world through classic horror films.
And really, the final piece of the puzzle was mass media. When television took off in the 1950s, it beamed this shiny new American-style Halloween into homes everywhere. Not just in the US, but back across the ocean to Europe and the rest of the world. And that's what made it the global giant it is today. So when you step back, it's just this incredible journey we've been on, right? From a sacred Celtic feast for the dead, through centuries of religious battles, all the way to a modern, multi-billion-dollar shopping holiday.
And you can really see the shift right here. Back in ancient times, the focus was almost 100% on spirituality. Now, commerce is absolutely dominant. The holiday's core meaning has fundamentally changed for most of us. Ultimately, the story of Halloween is one of incredible resilience and transformation, but it does leave us with a pretty big question to chew on. When an ancient spiritual tradition becomes big business, what parts of it do we lose? And maybe, is there anything we gain?